Uh, Good morning, everyone. This is Gangadhar Akula. So I'm from Future Achievers Academy. So it's a weekend, and I wanted to share some of the knowledge that I gained in 10 years of software industry experience. So today we'll talk about programming basics. Okay, programming basics are very important for a fresher. If you have a strong basics, you can have a long journey in your programming career that will take you to the places. So let's start. Our tagline is that learn it on your own way. So you learn it on your own way. Okay, so there is a way. Let's start. What is language? Language is a tool that we use to communicate with people. For example, if you take English, I'm communicating with you using the language called English. Maybe I can use Hindi also or Telugu also, whatever the language that I know, right? Similarly, a tool that we use to communicate and exchange some words, feelings, and all. Why I'm discussing about language? Because languages and the programming languages have a solid connection. Okay. Grammar. So we used to speak any language using some rules. So that is what is called grammar. Okay. There are certain rules. You have to follow those rules to use that language. So those rules are called grammar. Translator. Okay, so I know one language and you know other language, but we don't know each other's language. So we need to somehow communicate. Sign language is not really effective because we don't know sign language also. So then we need somebody who can translate my language to your language, and somebody who can translate their language to my language. For example, a simple explanation. I know English and somebody else know Hindi, and we need to talk. So there must be somebody in the middle who should know Hindi as well as English, so that I can say whatever I want to him in English and he can convert that to Hindi to the other person. Similarly, the other person can convert his language, Hindi, to English and communicate with me. So that's how the translator is going to work. There is a good relationship between translator and the programming language. I'll get to you there. Why we have multiple programming languages? We have multiple programming languages because, multiple languages because certain regions of people are going to speak certain language. For example, in India, most of the people speak Hindi or English or Telugu or Malayalam or Tamil. So different languages. So specific region has a specific language. So the natural languages are region specific. Okay. So yeah. So if you wanted to communicate with people across the regions, you need to know those languages, or you need to have somebody who can translate those languages for you. Okay. Come back to the programming world. What is programming language? Programming language. Okay. A language that we use to communicate with systems or computers is called programming language. Okay. Normal language we communicate between the people, whereas the programming languages we use them to interact with systems or the computers, or sometimes between systems and systems also we use programming languages. Like if an air conditioner AC wants to talk to a Wi-Fi router, at that time we use a programming language. Okay, all good. Syntax. Like we have grammar in our natural languages, in the programming languages also we have grammar. We have some rules to write the programming. Okay, the rules to use those programming languages. That is called syntax. So in plain terms, the grammar of a programming language is called syntax. Compiler. What is compiler? Compiler is a translator that computers use to convert the high-level programming language that we have written to a machine level, machine readable language. Machine in the sense computer readable language. Computer just understand those binary languages. So it converts the high level programming languages into the ones and zeros. Okay. Programming. So many people say, what is programming? People say that set of instructions is programming. Partially it is right, but in depth, programming is nothing but solving problems. Okay. So solving problems is called programming or problem solving. Okay. You have this definition in your head, because if you know how to solve a problem, you can write code for that particular problem. Okay. If you know how to solve, how to identify whether the given number is prime number or not, then you can write program for that. The steps that you need to know, that's actually called logic also. Okay. You will get to know that. But what is programming? Solving problems is called programming. Have this definition in your head. Coding. Converting that programming language into set of instructions is called coding. So writing programs is actually called coding. But solving problem is called programming or problem solving. That is very much essential if you wanted to step into the programming world. Logic. Programming, the fundamentals of the programming depends on the logic. How good at your logic, how good you are with your logical abilities. Okay. So that's why we say that if you are good with your mathematics, then we say that it's very easy to write programs, because somebody who is sound with the mathematics is good with logic. It's given. So logic is the core steps to solve a problem. So most of the programs are mathematical related. And don't worry, if you are not good with mathematics, learn the basics of the mathematics. That will help you to get your logics correct. And if your logics are correct, then you can write programs on the snap of times. Okay. So focus on building your mathematics and focus on building your logic. The logic is nothing but the core steps to solve a problem. Okay. The important steps to solve a problem. For example, if you take a simple problem, even and odd. So to find whether a given number is even or odd, you need to divide that number with 2 and you need to get a remainder 0. So if you get a remainder 0, when you divide the number with the 2, then it's called even number. So this is the logic. That has to be there in your mind to write the even odd program. Similarly, prime, similarly, Armstrong, similarly, palindrome, similarly, so many programs in the world, even sorting based on the alphabetical order. These are real-time examples. So all these are dependent on your core logic. And if you are very good with your logic, then you're pretty much on top of the game of programming. And the best part of the logic is you can write it in any form or any language. You can write it in English, or you can write it in C, Python, Java, C++, anything. Or you can use flowcharts to explain your logic. Okay. So logic can be written in any form. Programming languages. Again, we have C, we have Python, we have Java, we have C++, we have JavaScript, and many more languages like Kotlin, Shift, Ruby, CSS. CSS is not actually a programming language, it's a style one. So there are like plenty of programming languages. Along with this programming languages, we have support system. Like we have AWS, we have SQL. AWS is used to set up your instances. On top of them, you will actually compile your code. And then you have SQL, structured query language. So that we use to interact with your databases. So these are supports. Like you need those support system to actually write programs, because if you have servers, you can actually write your programs and share it to the people. Generally, most of the people use servers to build their code. That's an advanced. Right now, it is only basics. Let's go next. Why we have multiple programming languages? Yes, we have multiple programming languages because they are application specific. Okay. C language is used to implement systems. Linux kernel is implemented in C language. Okay. because that's powerful, efficient. Python is used to artificial intelligence and machine learning things. But these days, Python is becoming popular in these areas, machine learning and deep learning. And whereas the computer vision, there are plenty of libraries available around the Python. So that's why it is becoming popular. And C++ is just a superset of C. It's also used for systems programming. Most of the Microsoft things here are implemented in C++, like the Word, PowerPoint, and all. And the Java web applications. So most of the applications or web applications are implemented in Java. And so like JavaScript, the web-based front end mostly uses JavaScript, HTML. And these days, Kotlin is the new language. So there are plenty of these programming languages, and each one is used to implement different applications. So these are application specific. Okay, like the natural language, the region specific. These are application specific. We generally not interfere implementing one, like using one language for implementing certain application. For example, at the deep of the systems, we do not actually use Python. We use C. At the top of the systems, we use Python. Okay, like for doing some functional testing and all. Which is the programming language to start with? If you are a fresher, I recommend start with C or Python. If you wanted to go next and learn C++ and Java, start with C. Because if you start with C, you have a solid foundation for C++ and Java. But if you start with Python, learning C++ and Java will be difficult because Python does not declare variables with type. So that's one difference between C and Python. So if you learn Python, you are actually habited to write the variables without type, and that will be complex for Java and C++. Okay, rest of them is like mostly same. So if you learn any of the programming language, C or Python, it's going to be easy. But what is important? Solving problems. And if you are good with solving problems, no language is a barrier for you. Okay, so most of the companies actually look for people who can solve problems, not for the people who can write programs in particular language. For example, if you take Google, they look for people who can solve problems. If you take Microsoft, they look for people who can solve the problems. Okay, not specific, and there is no barrier. Like you can use any of the programming languages to solve the problems. But C++, Java, C, Python, these are the most widely used languages for any specific interviews. So start with C or Python. Okay. Now you know the basics. Now you know what is language and blah 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 blah. Let's go to the next. What's next? Contact us because we are very good with training students. We are passionate actually. We are passionate to teach students, and subscribe to our channel. So this is a new baby that we started and we wanted to grow. So we will be growing, I'm sure. I'm promising you. And you can reach out on our Instagram, Future Achievers Academy. There is no spaces. And website, you can visit that also. Yeah. Get in touch with us. We are providing live courses, and as well as we are providing free and solid content on YouTube. See you in the next video, where I'll talk about the difference between online compilers and the offline compilers. And I'll also talk about basics of C language, Python. So we are a group of 10 software engineers. So you'll have a lot to learn from us. And if you name any programming language, we can create content on top of it, because we know. If we do not know, we'll learn and teach you. So see you on then.